I'm Jasmine Moradi, and you're listening to the Queens of Tech podcast, a podcast series about raising the voice of workplace champions. 60 plus questions in around 30 to 40 minutes with women, women of color, non-binary, and transgender influencers about their journey into STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I started the Queens of Tech podcast initiative in May 2022 because I would like to retain more women, women of color, non-binary, and transgenders in the tech industry. Talent is out there, but our work environment needs to improve for all to feel safer, stay authentic, and to be valued for our contributions. My vision is to raise the workplace ecosystem for all in tech by killing the imposter syndrome, stopping bad behavior, and increasing equity opportunities. Each podcast talk is built around 60 plus questions regarding upbringing, education, career path, DIB, and future advice. My mission is to bridge the gap between schools and workplaces by getting into the heart of my guest's personal life and career journey to inspire other girls, women of color, non-binary, and transgenders to unleash their full potential to reach top leadership roles in the tech industry. My goal is to raise the voices of tech champions around the world and together with companies, investors, and politicians, raise the challenges and opportunities around equity, inclusive, diversity, and belonging in our workplaces. Enough is enough. I would like to enforce companies to build a sustainable, inclusive culture to retain diverse talent so we keep the workforce power equity to continue building future diverse and inclusive products. Representation matters. Your voice matters. In this episode, I'm very excited to welcome my guest, Tech Queen Elham Mirzaei, Project Manager at EasyMiles, previous robotic engineer, and today future mobility enthusiast. Salam Elham.
Salam. Thank you, Jasmine, for having me, for inviting me. I'm so excited and happy to be here.
Well, I'm very honored to have you joining us all the way from Germany. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine. I hope you're doing well as well.
Now, let us dive into your journey into STEM. Hope you're ready for the Queens of Tech 60 plus questions.
I'm more than ready and also excited.
So let's warm up with a few fun facts about you. How would you describe your personality in 3 hashtags?
Passionate, constant learner, and strong.
How would you describe your life in 3 sentences or hashtags?
Including many ups and downs, which made me who I am today, the Elham that sits in front of you. And also, I really, really highly value the life chance that has been given to me.
What kind of music stimulates and motivates you the most?
I actually listen to a variety of music, depends on my mood, but absolutely electronic music, fusion music cheers me up.
What's your personal motto?
You have only one life, so live it or leave it. That's what's really on an everyday basis reminds me about taking care of myself, always keeping balance. And that's what matters to me in terms of being able to dream, being able to feel. That's certainly something that I value.
What is your favorite book?
I don't have a specific favorite book throughout my life. Depends on my conditions. Pick a book, try to read. So I wouldn't go for one specific book.
What is your favorite podcast?
Again, same situation, but currently I'm listening to 2 interesting podcasts. One is Transparency, which is actually combining some kind of satire, genre of humor, putting Farsi literature together, and also Coffee Break German, because I need to constantly improve my German.
Mac or PC?
I would say both, because I have both at home.
Say something interesting about you that most people don't know.
I just learned how to swim last year.
What is a hidden talent?
I'm really good at cooking. I love to cook.
And if you were going to write a book about your life, what would the title be?
How Elham became inspiration. just adding the fact that my name means inspiration.
I love that. Beautiful. Now, let us dig deeper. Our childhood has an effect on our adulthood. Our early experiences shape our belief about ourselves, others, and the world. Now, I want to discover your childhood. Where did you grow up?
I was born and grew up in Shiraz in Iran.
What was your dream job as a child?
Astronaut, because I was always fascinated about the night sky.
What was your favorite subject in school?
Math and literature.
What was your least favorite subject?
Religious.
What is your earliest memory of technology and the arrival of the internet?
The beep sound, I don't know if you remember, but this beep sound, what we used to have with these old modems. And at some certain point, when I learned how to mute it, that was like, wow for me.
Oh, you could mute it.
Yeah, there was in the setting one checkbox that you could mute it. That was like a revolution for me.
Which were the three first technology gadgets you owned?
I had a cassette player, and I remember a scientific calculator. I studied math and desk PC. That's the oldest I remember.
Who was your favorite role model growing up and why?
To be honest, I never had a specific role model as a child, or I couldn't see, or I was not maybe educated well enough to see such a role model around me. Also, I'm trying to learn from many people throughout my life, different stages.
So, how do you think, based on what you said, where you grew up and the school you went to and the generation you come from, influence your education and career choice?
And as a woman, I would say there is a huge difference. You were born and grown up. This is definitely playing a big role about your career selection. Let's say that. Um, I mean, there were a lot. I think was born also here. I would have again picked this career. I would have again picked this career because I picked it by my heart.
So, let's dig into your education and career now. I'm going to read two quotes. First one, how does the universe expect me to choose a career path at 16? I can't even choose what I want for dinner. Second, Abraham Lincoln said, I quote, best way to predict your future is to create it. So, Elham, where and what did you end up studying at university?
I studied my bachelor as robotic engineer in Iran, and I did my master as mechatronic engineer in Italy before moving to Germany.
When what influenced you to get into your choice and field?
I remember when I was 16 years old, I participated some workshops where I could build some electronic devices. And that was the first time that I learned about engineering. And that's how I fell in love with engineering.
So, what professional roles have you had before that led you to the current one?
Before I started as a project manager at EasyMile, I had the role of scientific employee at a university, but also robotic engineer at another similar company.
So, what does EasyMile do?
We are actually a software-based company that's developing autonomous vehicles as means of passenger or goods transport.
What is your title and what is your main responsibilities?
I'm a project manager, and my main responsibility is to lead one of our strategic projects, trying to bring level 4 autonomous vehicles for the first time in public roads in Germany. And according to the law, which was just published 2 years ago, very, very innovative.
How did you get the role?
To be honest, I stepped out of my comfort zone completely because I was not sure if I am ready to jump to project management. The other fact was that I was not sure if I can manage to do it in German, but I simply took the risk, went for the job interview, and it turns out I could do it.
Of course you did. Kudos to you. So, what does a typical workday or work week look like for you?
As a project manager, I have to execute a plan which was originally made for the project, meaning that I have to, on a daily basis, participate in many internal or external coordination meetings. But also, I need to make a lot of decisions, do a lot of tracking of budgets, timelines, and make sure everything is moving smoothly. And if not, raising the flag on time. But also, I have the fun time having lunch and ice cream after that with my colleagues during the day, and sometimes also sports.
And I love the quote choose a job you love and you will never have to work a day in your life. So, Elham, what do you love about your role?
What inspires me is the innovative part. It's the fact that I'm at the forefront of something that is completely new. There's no reference, no one else has been done it, and there are lots of challenges to tackle.
What are the best experiences you've had so far? Any examples you can share with us?
I was involved in other perspective of project, which I had never thought about in the ethical and the legal parts. As an engineer was something new that I had to put together within this project and interpret it into some technobricks. That was something that literally amazed me and was so fun to do it.
And what is the biggest challenge you've encountered and how did you tackle that?
As I previously said, there are lots of aspects that needs to be considered in this project. The biggest challenge is that it is happening for the first time. The legal part is completely new. There's no reference. There's no guideline to look at and see and learn. So somehow you need to put everything like a puzzle together and try to have this cross border on every aspect and make it work.
What do you wish everybody understood about your role?
I'm a project manager, not a magician. This is something that I use a lot at work whenever I talk to my manager or to other people's, because sometimes there are something which is completely out of your hand and some set of decisions have been made before you take over this project, which you had no role on that. And then it's wrong to expect that you shall somehow make it work no matter what.
And then what is the one common myth about your professional field that you want to disapprove?
It's simply that everything within a project is fixable. That's so not true. As I said, there are many, many other factors playing a role in the success of a project. And as a project manager, you have some certain capabilities to do your best to put everything together, but sometimes it doesn't work. It's out of your hand and you have to accept it.
And what do you love about working in the tech industry and in mobility?
The fact that I can put not only as a project manager, I can put my engineering skills also into actions. I can better practically see the results of what needed to be done from scratch, engineering, designing, developing, and implementing. Being involved on every layers of execution of a project is very fascinating for me.
Oprah Winfrey said, I quote, think like a queen. A queen is not afraid to fail. Failure is not a stepping stone to greatness. So, Elham, what has by far been your biggest achievement in your career?
I was successfully involved in two other similar projects, which I managed to successfully finalize. And currently, also, I'm fighting in the forefront of a very, very innovative project, which has lots of challenges. I hope that I come out of this project as well, like the others, and bring it to success. But feels that it's just exciting to be part of this daily.
What would you say is the biggest factors helped you become successful in your role? Any success habits?
Being flexible. In my certain type of job, it is important to be flexible, to not stick to whatever was written at some day, to be able to adjust constantly, timeline, budget, everything, leadership, and being able to review even your skill sets to make it happen, to move forward. Being flexible definitely is something that's helped me, and also good communication.
How do you measure your own performance at work then?
On a project level, by reaching milestones. Whenever I reach the next milestone, it means that I did a good job.
With success comes failures. What is your biggest failure in your career and what did you learn from it?
As a failure was letting small issues evolve into big problems. And I think it's very important to measure constantly the impacts of every single deviations and make sure about their impacts, even if they are very, very small. That's something that I learned to put into consideration for the future.
Based on everything you said, what is inspiring and motivate you the most in your role and career right now?
To be completely honest, currently it's hard for me to say that because in this industry, we are facing lots of challenging. to put such products into scalability and gain the acceptance of the society. There are lots of barriers. However, somehow these challenges themselves bring motivation for me to be able to be part of the solution provider.
Let us now jump into the influence of mentors, role models, champions, and sponsors. Role models can consciously or subconsciously be a powerful force in our lives. In addition, champions can stand up and advocate for us and open up the world of possibilities. Sponsors match emerging talent with leaders and influential employees who can help us move ahead in our careers. So, Elham, do you have a mentor, champion, or a sponsor today?
I don't know if I should say unfortunately or fortunately, no, but I have really no experience on that. I would be open to see what opportunities it can bring. I can already imagine, but no, the answer is no.
Well, history shows that it's been more common for men having mentors, champions, and sponsors in business than women. So, how important do you think is to have a mentor, champion, and sponsor during one's career going forward?
I can imagine that when I was a teenager, it would have been for me more interesting to know that someone with similar situation like me have been made it. So I can also make it. Unfortunately, I didn't have that. And at the moment also, I'm not familiar with such a thing. It's not provided for me. It's hard for me to say something about it, but I can imagine it's always beneficial to have some mentor who can share some experiences and you don't need to fail or try everything yourselves. I believe in that.
Let's move on to leadership. Adena Friedman, president and CEO of NASDAQ, said, I quote, empowering those around you to be heard and valued makes a difference between a leader who simply instructs and one who inspires. And Shirley Sandberg, ex-COO of Facebook, said, I quote, leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that the impact lasts in your absence. So, Elham, what does leadership mean to you?
Leadership for me is to being able to guide persons, teams that are available and available gadgets and resources together into specific manners where everyone can benefit, following their dreams, maybe not fully, but at least moving towards fulfilling their goals and dreams, and yet building up some meaningful output out of it.
What do you consider a good versus a bad leader?
I can say lots of things about good and bad leaders, but bad leaders for me definitely is the one who doesn't take responsibility whenever it is necessary and who is not open to hear feedbacks or flexible to adjust processes and always stick to some old school manners of leaderships and doesn't move forward with the modern lifestyle, I would say. And a good leader for me is the one who has a good comprehension of why something went wrong, right, or wrong. It's important to be able to involve at a certain time whenever it is necessary as a leader and set back and give space whenever it is necessary.
Who is your favorite female, non binary, or transgender tech leader and why?
Unfortunately, again, there has not been enough stories out there for me to have to build such a thing. However, not in tech, but in mathematics, I think Elham Mirzaei inspires lots of Iranian because she also came from Iran and she did an amazing job. So definitely she was inspiring.
How would you describe yourself as a leader?
I would describe myself as a leader with a really good set of communication skills, which can bring the right person at the right moment to the table. That's something that I really like about myself. And the other thing that I would like about my leadership is the gratitude, being able to let people know how and up to which extent they are contributing to some specific tasks or project or solution.
And as a leader, what values are most important to you?
I really highly value transparency, integrity, and gratitude.
And what leadership lessons have you learned that have formed you into the leader you are today?
I think one of the beautiful lessons that I learned throughout my journey was being transparent, no matter how awful is the situation. Because when you are transparent, even if the situation is not right, even if you're not within the timeline of the project or the budget, when you talk about it very transparent, very often you get positive feedbacks that everyone wants to contribute to find a solution together. So being transparent is something that I learned to consider.
What are your 3 strengths and 3 weaknesses?
My 3 strengths would be I'm a decision maker. I'm not disappointing so easily. So I'm a fighter. And I'm always open for new things, new challenges, new learning. And my weaknesses. I think sometimes I'm too much patient, and sometimes it is necessary to raise flag earlier and not wait too much. Being able to find a balance, where to raise up and where to stand and raise your voice.
Let us now jump into the hottest topic in business today, which is work life culture, unlocking the power of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So, Elham, what does diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging mean to you personally?
For me, diversity means what matters is your skill sets. And what doesn't matter is your race, your gender, or any sort of similar categories. Equity for me is the ability to considering rational fairness, specifying to all people, regardless of any sort of categories that they belong to. And inclusion and belonging for me is feeling of not being missed throughout the journey or shining as a whole, while every pixel matters in this shining.
What do you then consider being 3 to 5 signs of good company culture if you were to join a company?
I certainly highly value transparency. I think this is important. Gives you room to being able to make decision either at the company level or personal level. Having a safe environment where everyone can speak up, there is no judgment, and everyone are given the chance to have some small mistakes and learn from them. Also, a good balance between life and work, being able to also have fun at work.
And as a woman, what has been the most significant political or cultural barrier in your career, and how have you overcome these challenges?
I always say that for males, there's always certain pre-trust that they don't need to fight to gain it. They just need to start from some specific levels, which is already given to them. But for women, it's not the case, unfortunately. We have to start from zero, and sometimes depends on the company atmosphere, even below that, to be able to gain our trust. That's really challenging to prove yourself as a woman leader.
And why do you think it is important for more women, women of color, non binary, and transgenders to join the tech industry today?
Simply because this word is not exclusive for specific categories. We are all contributing to the same society. And it's very important that at the management level, the idea and opinion of these kind of categories are also reflected and considered. Because sometimes not the true needs or requirements addressing the needs of these categories are reflected. And every decisions or process is following its traditional old school manners of moving forward. And it's also important to build a friendly and more tolerant atmosphere for everyone to give the chance to everyone to follow their dreams.
And do you and how do you speak with your colleagues, peers, and community about DIB challenges, for example, salary gaps, promotions, maternity, etc.?
I am so lucky that at my current position and in this current company, we very often talk about these kind of topics, and my colleagues are open to hear other voices from female or colored colleagues. And for instance, I give an example. When I want to talk about promotions, I simply talk about it with my male colleagues and see how works for the other colleagues, for the male colleagues, and try to consider that for myself and not think about the fact that I'm a woman, it could be different. It's about my performance. I try to openly talk about it, honestly. Maybe it's because of the safe environment that we have, but I don't hesitate.
There are many public and internal discussion about the barriers women, women of color, non-binary, and transgenders face from reaching high position in the tech industry or receiving funding. How much do you feel it has affected and is affecting you? And what is your advice on how to best unblock these roadblocks?
Certainly, it is affecting every woman, I would say. And I can give you an example. For me, even as an Iranian, being able to open a bank account brought me lots of barriers that nobody even simply took responsibility for that because they were not able to openly talk about it because it was against law. So I would say it's very, very easy to go around, even if there is a rule, even if there is a certain regulation, it's very easy to make a systematic moving around by just bringing some justifications. So it is really important to speak up, to raise awareness, to tell the stories, not only the success stories, but also the stories about all these barriers. Sometimes hearing about same problem, raise the voice and everyone accompanying each other, support each other so that it comes to some certain level to bring a solution.
Today, tech companies spend a lot of marketing money to attract women of color, non-binary, and transgenders. However, at the same time, they're finding it hard to retain them. Articles show that women are leaving the tech industry. What is your best advice of strategies for how companies can work to build a stronger corporate culture that engages the IB?
To be completely honest, what has been done so far is good, but it's not enough. Only certain women under certain conditions have access to move forward to the management level. What I can suggest is it's really, really important to build a consistent company culture, top management to down, because even one single person at any level can be a barrier to not allow women or colored persons moving forward or grow to the management position. So this is really important to build such consistency. What additionally needs to be done is to pave the way from early stages of educations to build connection between specific field of studies, which is mostly male dominant, and make a clear connection, clear description to the future roles such as management or tech. I give you an example. In Germany, there is one day which is called Girls Day, where all these little girls and teenagers will visit mostly male dominant positions and meet some role models to see that all these possibilities are available for girls as well. This is nice, for example, but similar things and in more dimensions and in more geographical zones should be done so that we move forward.
And what would you say are the few factors of challenges of implementing a DIB culture in a workplace and in the tech industry today?
I think one of the biggest challenges that currently exists is that most of these decision makers for building such a strategy to support the IB are males and mostly white males. So it's really, really on top level that you have to find your way to get in to be able to reflect the true needs of women and other similar sort of categories that needs to be reflected at the decision making. And it's hard. It's simply hard to get in.
Why now do you think companies would benefit from not just having women of color, non-binary, and transgender leaders that we spoke about, but actual higher gender representation at C-suite level and boardrooms with actual voices?
There are several benefits, but I can, among them, refer to 2 points. One is that simply the more diversity we consider in our solution providing and the more we cover the needs of different type of peoples. And the second important benefit is that building a friendly and diverse environment will bring happiness, and happiness at work improve the performance. Improving performance will bring more profit for the company. That's just logical.
Based on what you said, what would you say is the biggest reason behind that we still don't have more women of color, non-binary, and transgender leaders in the tech leadership roles and as startup founders still today?
Based on my personal experience, I can tell being able to have the courage to raise the voice is something which is missing at the moment. There are less success stories, there are less raising awareness to help women to build trust in themselves, to raise their voice, to speak up and stand and being volunteer for such a thing. There's always this fear injection from the society to women. somehow I feel it. I don't know. Even though in Germany, of course, the situation is way better than Iran, but still, there's always this fear with us that shall I do it, or can I do it, or am I allowed to do it? The more we hear about similar persons, the more we will be courageous.
And the data reveals a concerning trend of low funding rates for startups led by women, with only 1 to 2% of the funding directed towards women in tech industry, said that Black and Latino women in particular see less than 1%. What factors do you believe contribute to this imbalance, and what strategies can be activated to increase funding for women-led startups?
First of all, these numbers are just disappointing and shocking. I personally was not aware of that. But I can tell being entrepreneur needs to be ready to accept a huge responsibility and deal with very high risks. You don't know what comes. And the society, I saw it personally, so often has this bias that females have more fear to take such risks. And this bias will be reflected, of course, in decision making, where you want the people, mostly white male, wants to distribute such funding. So I would say that could be the reason, not trusting in females to being able to tackle or cope with such risks.
And how much do you think the tech industry has changed regarding DIB since you joined?
For me, it's a bit difficult because I changed societies. I was in Iran, then I moved to Italy, and then I moved to Germany. I could see the differences. I could see that we're moving towards improving the situation. But when I look back, I think there was some certain initial years where we had a really good high speed improvement. But at some point, I felt that we kind of got stuck in just talking, getting funded, just valuing the number of male and females, and not looking practically beyond that. I feel that recently we kind of stopped in that level and the process slowed down, honestly.
And looking back on your career, what one thing would you have changed in your working environment to break the bias?
I think what I definitely would have done going back is to speak up, no matter what. Speak up, get rid of all the fears that has been injected by the society. I mean, have less fear of failure, because there is one thing that when a woman fails, a lot of labels will come along easily, certainly because you're a woman. When a man is failing, I think the behavior or the response is more logical and more focused on a human level, regardless of gender. So these kind of things could really make women step back. I think therefore it is really important to talk and share experiences.
And looking forward, what will you do as a leader to improve the bias for the next generation of women, women of color, non-binary, and transgenders in tech?
Put more trust on myself and similar women around me and raise my voice without bothering, without even doubting.
Let us now move on to another hot topic in business today, which is work-life balance and mental health. Elham, how do you take care of yourself to maintain a good mental health?
I'm doing a lot of sport throughout the week, sometimes with my colleagues during the day, the lunchtime, and sometimes after work. And I'm so happy about that.
Have you ever experienced burnout?
Yes, a couple of times. And in these circumstances, I try to simply sit back, give a breathe to myself by simply just, for example, taking one day or half a day off and going to some maybe spa, just try to get a bit of a distance from the problem and from the work environment.
What is your advice on companies can create a more mentally healthy workplace in the new now?
Being flexible. Please be flexible and provide more flexibility so that people, depends on their situation, depends on their condition, can pick up something. We have diversity in a sense that we have moms, we have dads, we have females, males. Please make sure that you're bringing similar opportunities for everyone, because it's hard to find the best optimal way to find the right balance and bring some sports, fun, or other perspectives to your daily work. And for every person, it would be different. It's unique.
What would you say motivates you every day to get out of bed?
living the life. That was my motto. I'm certainly happy to be able to breathe, wake up, and feel and living the life, I would say, with all the good and bad moments in it.
I can feel your energy and see your spirit for that. Matt, let's wrap up with a few words of wisdom and a piece of advice for our listeners. Elham, what is the best piece of advice you've been given that has helped you during setbacks in your role and career?
I think one of the best piece of advice that I have received is to get out of my comfort zone because the gain is there.
And then what is the worst advice I've ever been given and how did you tackle that?
You have to hide problems. That's not good. As I said, transparency will always win. Even if it's the worst case, people would value transparency more than lying and hiding things.
And is there something you wish you would have known or a skill you wish you had when starting out in the tech industry? If you had the ability to go back in time to when you were just at the beginning of your career, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Don't fear to move on. Don't fear to try new things. At the beginning, every new challenge, every new experience seems to be so dark. You would feel so lonely and so desperate, but at the end, you're going to make it. You're going to find your way out of this dark room.
Or what advice would you give to young girls, women of color, non-binary, and transgenders who trying to break into STEM fields today, especially wanting to become next generation leaders?
As a colored woman, I would say, please speak up. Please share stories because we often think that what we are contributing in this society doesn't matter. We're just so small part of this huge world, but that's actually not true. Our contribution matters, and we very often, especially in our cultures, we're not taught to value and celebrate our skills and speak up about achievements. We are contributing constantly, but we're kind of invisible because we don't talk about it. It's kind of like we don't want to shine, but it's absolutely true. I'm personally trying to work on that too. I'm not exceptional, but please let yourself to shine. You deserve it.
Last but not least, Elham, what is next for you in your role and career in tech? What are your career aspirations?
I'm very curious to learn more about product management because throughout my journey, I had to work so closely with our product managers. Somehow I contributed a lot or learned a lot. And it inspires me that this is also another challenge that I want to tackle.
Thank you so much, Elham, for being a guest on the Queens of Tech podcast. Sharing your journey will without doubt inspire change and reshape company cultures for the next generation of women of color, non-binary, and transgender leaders in tech.
Thank you very much for inviting me. And I am so honored to be part of this journey and being one of the people that raise awareness.
Thank you for listening. If you have worked in the tech industry a minimum 3 years and would like to share your journey, please nominate yourself or somebody you know to i@jasminemaradi.com. For more podcast episodes and to learn more about the Queens of Tech initiative and to support us, visit queensof.tech.